What's up, you guys? Welcome back. Just kidding. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of Hong Dynasty. We are so excited to have you. And we are in the middle of our 4-part series of toxic relationships. And we are so excited. We hope that you're staying safe in the social distancing hour and away from COVID-19. And yeah, 6 feet apart, even though that's definitely not 6 feet.
My arms are 6 feet.
If you have not subscribed to our channel, please hit subscribe, like the video, share it with all your friends, comment down below anything that you liked and any topics you would like us to cover in the future.
We're really excited to have y'all back as we continue this 4-part series on toxic relationships. The first 2 episodes were about manipulation and codependency. Today we're going to talk about another sign of a toxic relationship, which is lack of commitment. Before we do that, there's one little thing we left out when we were talking about manipulation, and it was about narcissism. So Deborah?
Just a couple of little points that I just want to tag onto a manipulative relationship. So we talked about manipulation and we talked about bully manipulation and victim manipulation, but there's also narcissistic behavior that can also be a sign that we believe can just be tied into that topic of manipulation. But basically, the person makes you feel really insecure about yourself, always second guessing yourself. You never really enjoy being around them. And they're always giving you constructive criticism, but you never asked for it. So these are all signs of narcissistic behavior, and that can go under manipulation. And so we just wanted to just add that also on there. There's so many signs of toxic relationships, so many things that we could get nitty gritty about. However, it is important just for us to remember that we're just sharing some of the things that we've noticed, and we're sharing some of our thoughts on that. So there's always more room for discussion, and probably more room than we have time for to even share in these small episodes. But today we're talking about lack of commitment. This is like every girl's nightmare.
Why is that?
Because I feel like guys are the ones, the majority of the time, there are plenty of girls who have problems with lack of commitment, but I feel like guys are the ones that have the most problem with commitment. Why would you say that is, as a guy, and growing up in our culture with our generation? Why do you think that would be the case?
That's a good question, Deborah.
One that I do not have an answer for.
As I stroke my chin, the answer will come to me. I have to agree with you. I do think that men generally have a harder time with commitment. The reason why, there's so many reasons as to why someone would have problems with commitment. Maybe they've been burned in the past several times. Going back to that story for you and me before I went to Morocco. I had been burned twice before I had left overseas. So that put in a distrust in relationships. So that could be one reason. I've seen this a lot too. Kids who grew up and their parents divorced. That could be one. Another reason would be no one ever showed them what a real relationship looks like. So there's a lot of reasons why people would lack commitment in a real relationship.
Yeah. So one of the things that I have noticed is it is really hard to see that you're in a toxic relationship when you're right in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. It's almost like swimming with goggles under really murky water, and you can't even see what's right in front of you. It could be right in front of you and you can't even see it because of how blurry and how just dusty everything is. And that's what it's like being in a toxic relationship, because then when you're outside of that toxic relationship and you look back, you're like, how did I not see this sooner? Why did I stay so long? And I think that the most freeing thing we can do is be honest with ourselves and get out of that relationship. And then we can really, figure out how we got into it in the first place. I want to talk about lack of commitment from 2 perspectives.
Okay.
So from the perspective of like the person who's not struggling with commitment and they're in a relationship with somebody who's struggling with commitment, how that will look more than likely is like they never want to talk about the future, or maybe they even have a hard time defining your relationship now. Like, you're clearly in a dating relationship and they don't want to label it. I don't believe in labels. That is such a sign of lack of commitment because they're scared, whatever it is, whatever reason. Or maybe they just want to use, you, but they don't want to really put a label on it because they want to keep their options open just in case someone else may come along. They can say, well, we were never dating in the first place. You know?
We never made it official. We never put it on Facebook.
We never even discussed it. That is a definite sign of a toxic relationship. I know that it is healthy and normal when you're in a healthy relationship that you talk about where that relationship stands sooner than later.
Yeah.
Especially a couple months into talking to that person. In our culture, we have like you talk and then you date. Those are different. You could talk to somebody and not date them.
Yeah, we talking.
It's like, what does that even mean? Is that like, you're not sure yet if you really want to
That just
be
means
exclusive?
right now we're just we have a texting relationship.
Yeah,
That's what that means now.
But after a couple months of that should give you should have enough indication to know if you really want to be exclusive or not with this person. You got to stop dragging them along.
Yeah. And you can't force somebody either.
Yeah.
It's got to be something both parties agree to. Otherwise, the other person's going to turn around and say, well, you made me be your boyfriend or you made me be your girlfriend.
No one wants to be in a forced relationship. Yeah. But at the same time, from the perspective of the person not struggling with commitment, and they're like, well, why won't they be exclusive with me? Why are they having a hard time? Well, they could have their own issues, but really we need to be able to say like, that's not okay with me. Like, because this is a thing I've noticed a lot of guys will do if they're getting their emotional needs met, and girls will do this too. If they're getting their emotional needs met from you by just talking, and there never comes a point where you actually demand a definition of this relationship, like you have to define this. What is this? Who am I to you?
Yeah.
Am I important enough to you to be your exclusive? Or are you so into yourself?
You just playing me.
Yeah, and you just want your hands in so many people's buckets that you can just talk to this girl when you want to talk to them, talk to this girl when you want to talk to them, talk to this girl when you want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And so as women, if you're not one of the women struggling with lack of commitment and it's actually somebody else struggling towards you, then you have to actually put that demand. What is this? I'm not going to stay up until 2 a.m. when we dated. I mean, Lord Jesus, we didn't even get sleep. I don't even know how I functioned in school. You remember those nights?
Well, I didn't go to school.
Some nights we would stay up talking,
and the sun would come
texting until
The
like
sun?
5 a.m.
Yeah, we'd be like, oh crap, the sun just came up.
Yeah, that was only like one night, thank God.
No, that was more than one night.
But it was not every night. Every night was probably more like 2 a.m.
2, 3, yeah.
We truly enjoyed talking to each other, and we truly enjoyed like getting to know each other.
Yeah. And a good hour of that too was, I'm not hanging up. You hang up first. No, you hang up first. All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2. You still there? I thought you were going to hang up.
And we talked about last time signs of, different phases of relationship.
Yeah, that was definitely an
infatuation. Because now he's like, babe, I don't want to talk on the phone. Bye. He's like,
I'm
that's
tired.
it. Yeah. Or there are times I've told him, like, I've had a long day. I don't want to talk right now. Somebody struggling with commitment. Like, if you're the person struggling with commitment, you got to know you can't string people along.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just
Unless
that's selfish.
Unless they're, a manipulator and they're just trying to take advantage or use you. Then. But another thing too, you got to know your worth. You got to know your value. If you know that you are valuable, if you respect yourself, it always comes back to this. If you respect yourself and know your value, you're not going to let someone use you. You're not going to let someone string you along.
But you got to be smart about it. I feel like some people have no relational intelligence. So they're just like going about, I'm going to text this person anything I want. Hold on. Like, there were times where I could tell when you were struggling with commitment. And I could tell that you were struggling really with fear of rejection. And what I responded in those moments were the most crucial, because those were the line in the sand type, You're either going to define this or not type deal. And so I see so many girls just texting like, oh, I'm just going to send this emoji, or I'm just going to say this, or I'm just trying to be cute. No, you probably shouldn't text back the first thing that comes to your mind. You probably need, to think through.
That's in everything in life.
Yeah, true. But you probably need to think through how you're going to respond, especially you're really into this person. You know this person's really into you, but they're having some doubts because maybe they've been through divorce, or maybe they've, been through horrible breakups and they don't want to go through that pain again. Well, of course, they shouldn't take that out on you like you did for me. I didn't allow that,
Yeah, because you knew your value.
I
you knew your worth.
immediately noticed. Like, you have to have relational intelligence to notice what is going on here. And there's so many people who don't. That goes for guys too. You should be asking certain questions to yourself. Like, is this going anywhere? And if it is going somewhere, we need to talk about it.
We need to be on the same page as far as where is this headed.
And some guys, they think they're already dating the girl, and the girl, they've never even talked to the girl about being exclusive, and she thinks they're just talking, and she's actually more interested in another guy. So it's like, oh, make sure you're having these conversations. Like, where does this relationship stand?
And if that relationship is not headed towards marriage, just stop. You're wasting each other's time.
It doesn't matter how much you like them.
If I asked her, it's like, hey, I want to date you because my intentions are to marry you, and if her response was, well, I don't ever see me marrying you, I wouldn't have wasted another minute talking to you.
Right. And it would have probably been more the other way around because
hey, I'm the one that said it though.
But it's definitely something that you have to have these conversations. So first of all, if you're just talking, you need to have a conversation whether you're going to become exclusive. Then you're dating. Once you're dating for a little bit, a couple months, you need to be talking about, is this headed for marriage? If that person has a marriage problem, if they have like a scared of marriage syndrome, then you need to talk about it.
Or they're already married and you don't know it.
Oh my God. No, that is a toxic relationship. But especially, I've seen so many guys scared of marriage because they have seen awful marriages. And we will get into a healthy marriage, but marriage is wonderful. It can be the best. Basically, you could be with your best friend for the rest of your life.
I cannot function without her.
And vice versa. But the problem is, so many people get with the wrong people, or maybe they get with the right people at the wrong time under the wrong circumstances, or maybe they're one of those people that just text back anything that they thought. Then they get married and they take some unhealthy habits with them. So it doesn't mean that just because like someone has had an unhealthy marriage that they weren't right for each other. They could have been really right for each other, but they had all the unhealthy behaviors that they brought from their past.
Well, I'll give you a great example of a red flag in someone from a lack of commitment. I knew a gentleman and he was about to get married, and I believe it was the night before he was going to get married or a couple of weeks prior to it. He told me, he said, man, I just don't know if I'm ready to get married, or I don't know if I should get married. Should have been a red flag. But, me, I was young.
And you at that time probably didn't have as much relational intelligence.
Yeah, and so I didn't think twice of it. I didn't think, I didn't.
And you were dealing with your own issues.
Yeah,
at that point.
I knew absolutely nothing about healthy relationships or anything. But that's a red flag. If someone's debating in their head after you've made a promise to marry them, should I get married to you? Or should I get married at all? That is someone who shows signs of lack of commitment.
Exactly. 2013, we had been dating 2 years already. I remember when I went to study abroad, I remember that, I was around a lot of other guys. And there were times where not only that circumstance, but other circumstances, like I could have, definitely seen other options. And
well, they were chomping at the bits.
Oh my God, that's not true. I remember my mom asked me while I was studying abroad, is there anybody else you're interested in?
Well, she asked you that because she knew I was about to buy you a ring.
Exactly.
She didn't want me
to
buy a ring.
This was a defining moment for me.
And she didn't want me to buy a ring.
Because I had the option to say, oh my gosh, yeah, there's so many guys, blah, blah, blah. Or I had the option to really see is Jimmy the person that I literally could spend the rest of my life? And I had to be honest with myself. And I think a lot of girls are so into the infatuation thing that they're not really looking for a long-term relationship. They're just looking for a thrill. So they'll kiss any guy or, eat. And later on, they may regret it because they're like, why didn't I do that? But, in the moment it just felt right,
Well,
and
some
it's
girls
not
are just,
always,
like you said, just trying to get a certain void filled in.
Yeah.
I hate to say it like this, but girls with daddy issues, they're trying to get that void
But
filled.
I know some that it's not just daddy issues. It's just like they just love the thrill, like the butterflies in the stomach. The moment comes, the guy's there, and they just kiss him, and
watch
they
too
don't
much
think
Hallmark.
exactly. They don't think through
I
like,
think it likes the Disney movie.
how can this affect this? So I knew my mom's asking me this question: how do you feel about Jimmy? Are there any other guys that you may be interested in? And I remember really thinking through, okay, how do I feel? How do I feel? Take myself outside.
Dang, you had to think about it?
No. Well, I'm trying to help girls. I'm trying to help girls who might be struggling with that commitment, and how sometimes it's not always like this was past our infatuation phase, so I didn't have those butterflies. So if I was chasing butterflies, I would have missed out on a man of a lifetime.
Chasing butterflies.
That's definitely not a song.
It is by Nelly Furtado. Nelly Furtado.
Really?
I'm like a bird. I want to fly away. I don't know where my home is. I don't know
That
where
song
my
does not
soul
say
is.
chasing butterflies.
I thought it did.
You're
for
thinking
a
of
second.
TLC's Chasing Waterfalls.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, the point is, I could have missed out on a man of a lifetime had I been chasing feelings, chasing butterflies. So once that infatuation subsides, I could clearly see. And I told my mom clearly, I said, absolutely, I could see myself marrying Jimmy because he definitely balances me out. I never have to question or be insecure around him. He doesn't make fun of me in front of people. He always tries to uplift me because, other people might have done that in the past, but he never does that. He always makes me feel good about myself. It never feels like a competition. Y'all, I'm giving you keys right now. If you feel insecure with your partner, if you feel like it's a constant competition, if you feel like above all the lack of commitment, those are also signs. And so I never felt any of that with him. And I knew he was a safe place. He could push me, he could balance me, and vice versa. So I said, absolutely, I could see myself with him. Little did I know he was buying a ring. I had no idea he was buying a ring. And so I just know that some girls can get into this lack of commitment type. I'm not sure, because they would prefer the butterflies and they would actually prefer a long lasting committed relationship, and they don't even realize they're doing it. Yep. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's just out of immaturity. It's out of relational.
It could be also out of hurt.
Yeah. It could be out of hurt. It could be out of previous experiences. It could be out of immaturity. It could be out of so many other things.
So if that's you, just pick one of them, and that way we can work on it. Or you can work on it.
Yeah, so I just know that a lack of commitment really holds people back from a really good thing.
Yeah. So if someone asks you to move in with them, don't do it till there's a ring on that finger.
That's another thing.
And for women, wait till there's 2 rings on that finger.
Yeah, but this is a thing. We already talked about this. The women are most of the time getting sold short because they think that's the next stage of a relationship, to move in together. But then the guy's getting all the benefits of living with you. You're cooking, you're doing the laundry more than likely. You're doing, blah, blah, blah.
And then when you actually get married, like, hey, we've been living together for 2 years, we should get married. Then the woman doesn't feel like, okay, I have to perform like this, so you want to marry me, because now, hey, I got to marry you. So now, and the man's going to be like, when you were living here and we weren't married, you were doing all these things you're not doing anymore. And from the woman's side, it's, I got you, we're married now.
Yeah. And I've seen people that they were dating and they had substance abuse issues. One of the partners had substance abuse issues, and the other partner put up with it because they weren't married yet. But they were living together and different things like that. And they really wanted that person not to leave them. So they never complained about the substance abuse. But the moment they got married, then they started complaining. Like, why are you doing this? Why are you abusing these substances? All of these things. And the other person was so confused. This was never a problem during our dating relationship or a cohabitating relationship. But now that we're married, it's a problem. But really, it was a problem the whole time.
Yeah, one of the beautiful things about marriage, too, is like when you move in, we're kind of jumping the gun here or kind of going off topic, but when you move in together after you get married, you know, it's not an easy way out. So it's part of the joys of marriage. You begin to, learn about each other in a whole new light, in a whole new way. And that believe it or not, actually strengthens your marriage.
Yeah, it does. And we'll talk more about marriage. We're itching to talk about marriage, you can tell. But the point about this is make sure in the dating relationship, you are actually defining and you're making the other person define where your relationship stands. Is it going anywhere? If it's not going anywhere, stop right there. Yeah. You're worth more than someone not committing to you.
Exactly.
And then also, if they're saying, but they want to live with you, maybe you are dating, you are exclusive, but they don't want to marry you, but they want to live with you. That's also, you getting the short end of the stick, because then they get you to play wife, whereas you really don't get their commitment as a husband. And so it's so important that we value commitment and ourselves enough to say, hey, number one, you have to define this relationship. Are we exclusive? Okay, we're dating. Okay, now are we headed for marriage? And if there are things that you don't like about that person and you're not okay with telling them, especially substance abuse issues, or maybe it's character issues, or maybe it's, just things that they need to work on. But, I'm not saying constant criticism of how they can improve, but just small things here and there, like that you need to actually talk about to have a successful relationship, and you're not willing to do that because you're afraid to lose them. That is toxic as well.
Cool. Well, that wraps up another episode of Hong Dynasty, part 3 of a 4-part series of toxic relationships. We got a huge surprise coming your way, so make sure if you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe, like this video, leave a comment, whatever you want us to talk about in regards to relationships. So stay tuned. That bridge is coming. We have an awesome surprise about that coming your way.
See you next time.